My name is Jiles Smith, and welcome to Our Community. Hello, Angela. Thank you for coming to our show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us more about your background.
I had a child at 16, and I was out on my own, and I dropped out of high school, but I went back. I got my GED, went to Victor Valley College, got my associate's degree in Administration of Justice and Paralegal Studies. From there, I started working at the local prisons in Atlanta, and worked my way up to the warden's position and continued to the actual warden's position, and then continued my education to Azusa Pacific University, and then to Pepperdine University, and got my master's degree in organizational leadership.
Wow, wow. So I heard you had 2 children, so
yes.
You describe the first one, talk about the second one as well.
My daughter, she's 23 now, and she works at GO for the immigration facility there as a detention officer. My son, he went to the Air Force. When he turned 18, got his bachelor's degree at Azusa Pacific University, and now he works for BNSF for the railroad in management.
Well, that's a good job.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
So how is being on the City Council different from being on the Victor Valley College Board?
Well, both of them had a lot of issues. When I left the college, they actually were off probation and were back on track, but then shortly after I left, they ended up back on probation, and now they're off again. So hopefully the college can continue with their strides to make things better there. When I went on to Victorville City Council, they had a lot of issues there financially. The previous council had made a lot of bad relationships there with developers, and didn't work out for the residents of Victorville. So it made it very difficult for Victorville at that time, with a lot of issues with the base and the SEC investigation, the grand jury. And I went in there and I just provided a voice for the people, and tried to do everything I could to end those relationships with those developers. And Victorville is now doing much better.
How was your job as a Director of Finance for the Victor Valley Water Reclamation Authority helped you in your job on the council?
Oh, I think it's helped me immensely. My position as Director of Finance at Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority, and being involved with our member agencies. I'm involved with Apple Valley, Victorville, Hesperia, and San Bernardino County, parts of San Bernardino County. So I understand how government works. I understand government finance. And it's helped me to weed through all of the agendas and find, things there that are concerning to residents and to finances. And I think my government background has made me a much stronger council person, because I can find, things, and I see through the staff recommendations. And I spot things, and people think, wow, how did she catch that? And it's just my experience, because I've written staff recommendations. I know how they should look. I know how the budget should look. And I know the processes that you have to go through. And if something's being bypassed or something's not done correctly, I'm going to catch it, because I'm over a lot of staff at Victor Valley Wastewater. And so I see those things.
So if somebody from government, I don't think they maybe intentionally kind of mislead a council, but if they give information that may not be as accurate or as possible, it's difficult for you guys to make a decision what's best for the people, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And you'll find in the council meetings that I'll ask to table the item until we can get the information. And if I don't feel that the information is correct and the council decides to go ahead and vote with that, it'll definitely be a no vote for me.
So let's talk more about your recent termination of the contract for the BCG. What's the benefits to the city?
Well, unfortunately, anytime a city is involved in golf, especially in this economy, there's no benefit. Basically, you're just doing the best you can with the resources that you have. There's a lot of downside to shutting down the golf course. Property values are going to go down. It's really an eyesore on the city. But as far as the reasons behind cutting the or ending the contract for Billy Casper Golf is because they could not maintain the golf course to the contractual standards, and they were constantly coming back to the council and asking for subsidies to $600,000 more a year, and it was to the point where, you know, we had to stop the bleeding and find a different way and a different, I mean, they're not even performing, so we had to terminate the contract so that we could find a different provider or different solutions of how we're going to deal with this golf course. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation that, you know, happened before I was on city council. I mean, but now we're left with this, and we have to figure out how are we going to fix it. And we can't continue down this path with a company that's not providing the services for the golfers.
I understand that you support larger lot sizes. Please tell us more about that.
Well, in the city of Victorville, we have a lot of condensed housing right now. And what's unfortunate about condensed housing is whenever you have a lot of houses in one area, you're going to have more calls for service for police, more calls for service for code enforcement. You're going to have more cars parked in the streets. In Victorville, we have housing tracts that are 4,000 square feet for the property. And that basically, you open the back door and you hit the fence. There's no place for the children to play, no place for you to put your stuff at, no place for you to enjoy your yard. So the people are coming to the front yards, or the children are playing in the streets, which is very unsafe. And the scenario for that is deadly for children. And it's not the developer's fault, and I'm not blaming the developer, because the previous council didn't have any boundaries, any requirements for developers, so they just came in and built whatever they want and left with big profits. And they left us with no parks. They left us with very little amenities for the residents. So it created a lot of problems and a lot of calls to code enforcement. And we can't keep up with that. And you know, if you talk to people today, they're like, well, just hire more police, just hire more code enforcement officers. Well, that's growing government, that's big government, and that costs a lot of money for the taxpayers. That's huge pensions that we have to carry, and who's going to pay for that? When we can do things better now and find a better way of doing things, so that we have a lot of condensed housing, we have a lot of low-income housing. So now we need to find the other spectrum, and we need to build and have variety for our residents, and to attract a variety of people to our city, so that we have larger lot sizes, we can have better homes. It would be nice to have nice communities that have paseos, pathways, parks in that vicinity, so that the children can play. And we're not asking for 1 acre lot or half-acre lot sizes. We're asking for 7,200 to 10,000 square foot lots, so that they can park their recreation vehicles on the side of the house. They don't have to park them in the front of the house or on the lawns or in the streets. And that's all we're asking. And it's not a lot, but the developers are coming, and they're coming by the groves into the council meetings, and they're angry, and they don't want this. And I don't know what to tell them. You know, I was elected to make policy and governing decisions with the city, and I believe that this is the best for Victorville, and we have enough of the other, and we need a little bit of variety in lot sizes. And that's what I'm trying to do, is slow big government, and I think that I can do this, hopefully with the council's support, and the people are behind me. I mean, I get letters and emails, and I work the Home and Garden Show, and I had tons of people coming up to me and saying, stay strong, keep your head up, you have to fight for us, be our voice, and I'm going to continue to do that as long as I'm a city council member.
Look at Apple Valley compared to the rest of the high desert. The home values in Apple Valley are increasing at a faster rate. Some of the most expensive homes in the high desert, as far as value, have been in Apple Valley. In fact, there was a flyer that came in the mail that said the most expensive home in the high desert was recently sold in Apple Valley. And it's because of the higher development standards that Apple Valley has fought hard for, that I have fought hard for over the years. And we have that minimum lot size of a ½ acre. And it's bode well for Apple Valley. And it would bode well for the rest of the high desert as well. There are people that like to have these smaller lots, and that's great. We do have condominiums in Apple Valley that are on smaller lots and multifamily housing. But for the most part, it gives people space. It gives the ability for children to play in their yards instead of playing in the streets. You can park your RVs in the backyard and things like that. So I'm a big proponent of having larger lots and higher development standards, because it benefits everybody, especially the homeowner, when the value of that home is worth more money than they paid for it.
Cardiovascular disease kills 6 times as many women as breast cancer.
Cardiovascular disease kills more than 500,000 women a year.
Cardiovascular disease kills more women than men each year.
1 out of every 2 women will die of cardiovascular disease.
When I was first diagnosed, when I first heard the word heart disease was actually when I was on the table having an angiogram, and I was told that I had 80% cholesterol, a blockage in my artery, and I was in shock.
I never even gave my heart a second thought, really. I felt that I didn't have any symptoms of anything. I never woke up with headaches or dizziness or feeling tired and fatigue all the time. So I didn't go. I thought I was okay. But actually, I wasn't okay.
I know my body really well, and I knew the symptoms I was having were real. I was having the chest pain and the squeezing and the radiating and the jaw pain.
I started feeling pain shooting down my arm, actually both arms. I was shortness of breath, my teeth and jaw started hurting. I started having headaches, and I spent probably a few hours going through these symptoms before I finally had a girlfriend tell me that this was not something to take lightly.
I was the one that didn't want to go to doctors. I just stayed away. I know that I should have gone earlier, sooner.
I had these symptoms from the time I was in my 40s, and I worked in the healthcare profession almost my whole entire life, and even that didn't get people to take a notice and listen to me.
Heart disease was always associated with age, being older. All the characteristics of someone with heart disease was someone like my father.
One of the major myths of heart disease is that it's a man's disease. It's a middle-aged man leaving a business luncheon, carrying a heavy briefcase, going out into the cold, clutching his chest.
Not only is heart disease not just a man's disease, it's not just an elderly person's disease, and heart disease can happen to young women as well.
It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, it's something that can happen to you.
One of the things that can be really important for all of us is to listen to our bodies. You have to listen to your body when you have a symptom, and to not be avoidant of whatever that is.
Women's symptoms can be different than men's symptoms, and this can make it difficult to diagnose women.
The main one is chest discomfort, but it doesn't always come as a chest pain.
It's often a heaviness, a squeezing, a tightness in the chest, and it may radiate down the arm, up into the jaw, or into the back.
Women also present with symptoms that might be put off as premenopausal. So they might have some shortness of breath, fatigue, not sleeping well at night, indigestion.
One of the problems that often happens is that when women present with symptoms of a heart attack or symptoms of having cardiovascular disease, they can be misinterpreted as anxiety. So one of the things that we want to help women do is accurately identify whatever symptoms are coming from their own body.
At the time I thought I was having an anxiety attack. I tend to put a lot on my plate, and take on too much. So I was brushing it off as if it was nothing. And it wasn't until I got to the hospital and they started running tests and doing EKG that I started taking it seriously.
Stress for me is probably the key component for my angina, my heart. So I've had to learn to step out of my type A personality, and if the beds don't get made or whatever, it's okay. If I don't make homemade cookies that day for my kids, it's okay.
Oftentimes women put everybody else above themselves, and they're the last person that is on their priority list. And I would really like for women to start putting themselves first.
It's important for every woman to know her risk factors and then do the things that she can to reduce her risk factors. Some of them are not modifiable, such as our age or our family history of heart disease, but most of them are modifiable, and those include having high blood pressure, having diabetes, having high cholesterol, smoking cigarettes, being overweight, and also not exercising.
One of the things I find most hopeful about being in preventive cardiology is that this is a preventable disease in many cases, and that people can really make a big difference in their lives by changing their lifestyle, especially through diet and exercise. And I think a lot of women feel quite empowered and encouraged when they see that little changes that they make in their life make a really big impact.
While we've come a long ways in treating women with heart disease, there's still a lot that remains to be done. Heart disease is something that we all need to be concerned about, and we need to talk to each other about it. It's not something that we should hide or think that doesn't apply to us.
The more information regarding your health, the better off you'll be. Ask your physician for your numbers. You should keep a record and know what your blood pressure is, what your cholesterol is, and what your glucose is. I'd like women to internalize this information that cardiovascular disease applies to them and not someone else.
If I had seen a video come across my email, or if I was surfing the website, I would have never clicked on it. And primarily the reason being is that it didn't apply to me.
Anybody that's clicking on this or is watching this, it's really important that you pass this message on. Until she had the heart attack, nobody took her seriously. So it's really important for your health and the health of either yourself or your spouse or your loved one that you pass this message on.
I just want to say thanks to my mom for her inspiration. She's been great, motivational, encouraging me to exercise as well as eat healthy, making more appropriate food changes. Heart disease was not on my radar, but it is now.
Share this message with friends and loved ones because it's a really important message to get out. Whether you want to use social media, the web, word of mouth, whatever it takes, please spread the word.
Wear red!
I think our greatest challenge is to continue to add law enforcement and public safety in Victorville. I think we can accomplish that because right now we're the only city that is consistently adding law enforcement to our budget every year, and we're going to continue to do that. As long as I'm in office, I'm going to put that as my priority is law enforcement. But there are also other things that the city can be doing to help with public safety issues, and one is to increase our building standards so that we don't have the condensed housing that attracts investors to come in and buy them and then rent them out to Section 8. And a lot of residents are very upset about that because it brings down their property values when you have a lot of rentals around you. And I think that if we can increase our building standards, we can attract residents with disposable income so that we don't have so many issues regarding that occur in condensed housing tracts.
So let's talk about crime a little bit more. Crime in Victorville is a big passion of yours, I know that. What is the city going to do to try to correct some of the trends that have been popping up?
Well, right now, homelessness is a big issue. Unfortunately, the Assembly Bill 109 has created tremendous and unfortunate situations in Victorville regarding homeless in the Mojave River. And I have gone down to the riverbed and met with the homeless people and to see what is exactly down there and how we can deal with this situation. I've met with our police department, and they have assured me that traditional policing is not working with the homeless because of the overcrowding in the jail system. So they will arrest them for loitering and arrest them for other things, and they're back out within hours. And they just come right back down to the river. So it's taking up all of our resources, and so how do we do this better? And so the Sheriff's Department has come up with programs to help with the homeless and to place them and to get them into a house and get them working and get them out of the riverbed. And they've had some success, but it's very, very difficult because a lot of them want to stay down there. And if the people in Victorville continue to give them money on the sides of the road, and the churches, God bless the churches for wanting to help them, but the better way to help them is to give to the program that the Sheriff's Department is working with, and that would make them do something for that money. And right now what the churches are doing is they're going down to the riverbed and they're giving them a lot of clothes and a lot of food. And what I have found in talking with the homeless people is they say, well, why should we do the program with the Sheriff's Department when the churches come down here? That we'll just stay down here. They give us the money and we can smoke our dope and we can drink our beer and we can continue our lifestyle. And so although the churches have the best of intentions to help these people and to try to get them on their feet again, it's not working because you need accountability with that. And with the Sheriff's Department's program, there is going to be accountability. They're going to have to do things to stay in these homes. They're going to have to get a job, and they're going to have to go into programs to help them with their substance abuses. So I think the better way is to work with the Sheriff's Department, and we're doing that, and the city is supporting the sheriff with this program.
Well, I know you're a very strong advocate for education. What do you think the state of education is, and how is it affecting your city and other cities around here?
Well, I think that it's unfortunate because we have 33 prisons in the state of California, and so much money goes into the prison system for these inmates, but yet so little bit of money is going into our education system for our children. And if you don't have education, what do you have? This is our future, and we need to start investing in our future and paying attention to these kids, as well as what I could do in the city of Victorville is make sure that we have parks and recreation, we make sure that the kids have programs for after school, and we keep that funding going. And I've been a strong advocate for continuing with that. And if I ever decide one day to go to higher office, education is going to be an absolute priority for me.
Well, speaking of that, your term is basically almost over, and I know you're running for office again in Victorville. What are some of your accomplishments so far in your first 4 years?
Oh, my first 2 years was absolute havoc on the council as far as trying to get support from my other council members. But since this last election, and we no longer have 2 of those council members there, I've been able to accomplish a lot on City Council. One is going after better building standards in Victorville. We've added more police to the budget, and just being a voice for the people and fighting for what's right. And no matter how difficult and how much adversity is in my way, and if I stand alone or not, I'm going to continue to fight for the people. And so that they have a voice and they're heard.
So here's one of those hypothetical questions I like to ask. If you were queen for a day and could do anything in government without question, what would it be?
Well, I would definitely look at privatizing a lot of the city of Victorville so that we can have more law enforcement on the street. And I think that that if we could do that and get our public safety under control, get the gangs under control, and our building standards, if I could go in there and just make for larger lots and higher building standards and no more of these wooden fences that fall down after 2 years, and I would make the quality of life a priority in the City of Victorville, and look at all those issues and make sure that we have good and safe schools and that our kids have great parks to play in and excellent activities after school, so they're not out looking at gang activity, they're not out graffitiing, they're not doing this, that they're doing things that are helping them education-wise, health-wise. I would bring grocery stores to downtown Victorville. I would make sure that the kids have fresh produce in those areas so that they're not just eating fast food, and that we can help with their health issues there. I would do things like that to make quality of life better for our citizens of Victorville.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I'm planning on running again. The election should start again after June, and I would appreciate your vote, and I will continue to fight and be your voice. So think about me in November of 2014. Angela Valles will be running for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.